ይህንን ጉባኤ ባርክልን ጌታችን፣ ይህንን ጉባኤ ባርክልን ጌታችን፣ ሰላም ስጠን፣ ፍቅርን ስጠን ዛሬ ለሁላችን። 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 ይህንን ጉባኤ ባርክልን ጌታችን፣ ይህንን ጉባኤ ባርክልን ጌታችን፣ ሰላም ስጠን፣ ፍቅርን ስጠን ዛሬ ለሁላችን። ሰላም ስጠን፣ ፍቅርን ስጠን ዛሬ ለሁላችን። ሰላም ስጠን፣ ፍቅርን ስጠን ዛሬ ለሁላችን። ሰላም ስጠን፣ ፍቅርን ስጠን ዛሬ ለሁላችን።
Our respected priest and administrator of this church, Igaman Rambo Taramai Kasai, administrator of the church of Mahadevasavat Hidatalamanam Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Komos Hapa Filipos, respected priests and deacons of the church, and all of you beloved brothers and sisters, welcome to this beautiful day, this joyful day, this historic day. I hope that all of you are learning something from all the presentations that have been taking place. If you guys can walk away with at least one thing that you learned, we can declare the day victorious. With that being said, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts, to open our hearts, prepare ourselves to hear the sermon of the day. Lesson for today: stand firm in the faith. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. Stand firm in the faith. In this lesson, we will learn about the concept of orthodoxy. And in doing so, we will have the confidence we need in order to get rid of any doubts that might be remaining in our hearts. But instead of trying to answer every single question individually, we will try to find the mega question, the main question, that's driving all the questions all together. And in doing so, we'll be able to address all of the other concerns we have. Stand firm in the faith. These words were written by Paul. And he wrote it to the church of Corinth in early church history at a time where the church of Corinth was going through a difficult time. The congregation was divided, separated, fighting with one another. It was a difficult time for the church of Corinth. And this division was largely because of the high diversity that existed in the city of Corinth. The city of Corinth had a lot of people within it. For example, the church was largely made out of Gentile converts. The Gentiles, because they did not have any Jewish background, when they came into Christianity, they found much and most of the practices very difficult to understand. There was also another group, the Jewish converts. The Jewish converts, because they had a Jewish background, coming into Christianity, they found most of the practices to be easy, and they understood why they were practicing the faith of Christianity. Now, the Gentile converts would ask their comrades, the Jewish converts, why they would practice their faith in the manner that they were doing it. And the Jewish Christians, instead of explaining their faith, they would judge them. They would look at them differently. They would scold them. And this diversity between the two groups created tension. Now, to make matters worse, the city of Corinth was extremely diversified. And because they were diversified, there was a large group of people who would worship idols. And when the idol worshippers, they saw Christianity in early church history blossom in the way that it did, they found their way inside the church and they began to reject the teachings of Christianity. They began to reject the main doctrines, such as resurrection, the main concept of Christianity. Now here we are, with three groups within one church, three highly diversified groups. And when they all came together, they began to divide. They began to separate. When Paul heard of what was taking place in the church of Corinth, he decided to write an epistle of 1 Corinthians. And in 1 Corinthians, he addressed all of their questions. He answered their questions, and he addressed their concerns. And he gave them solutions to their problems. And in the final chapter of the letter that he wrote to the church of Corinth, he said the following. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13 through 14, he said, "Be on guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, and do everything with love. May God give us the strength to stand firm in our faith." When we read this letter, this epistle, we can't help but notice that there is a lot of differences between the church of Corinth and the Ethiopian Orthodox church. But we also notice some similarities. There are some similarities between the church of Corinth and the Ethiopian Orthodox church. And much like the church of Corinth, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church in America in present times is becoming highly diversified. That's a good thing. We're becoming highly diversified. For example, we have a group who might have been born in Ethiopia, who grew up in Ethiopia, and they came here at the age of reason, or at an older age, they came to America. And because they were born in Ethiopia, they were introduced to the practices of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church at a young age. Everything they did, they learned it in Ethiopia. Even the cultures, anyone who grew up in Ethiopia knows that even the culture is practicing the practices of the Christian faith in Ethiopia. You can't separate the religion, the practices of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church from its culture. When they practice the culture, they're practicing their faith. They grew up with that mentality, and they come here to America. So when they come in here, they're bringing that mentality, those practices with them here to America. No questions asked. They worship it in a certain manner in Ethiopia. They worship the same way in America. That's the first one. Now the second one. I like to think I'm part of the second group. I like to think of this group. The group who might have been born in Ethiopia, but they came here at a young age. Or maybe they were born here altogether. And like in my case, I came here when I was 7. So I remember a few things in Ethiopia. Few things. I don't remember everything, but I do remember a few things. I remember going to church early in the morning. I remember services, some services. And it's not even about church. I remember family gatherings. I remember going to school. I remember a few things. I remember a yellow and red bus with 1,000 people rushing towards it. I remember a few things. And judging from your laughter, it seems you remember the bus as well. So we come to America. We know a few things. We don't know everything. And then we start learning from our environment. And here we have two different worlds. We have the world that we were introduced to in Ethiopia, and we have the world here in America. And when the two worlds come together, we begin to have questions. We want answers. We want to know why. For example, one of the things that I do remember in Ethiopia is one of the first things you did. One of the first things you did when you go to Ethiopian Orthodox church. What is it? What is it? You take off shoes. That's what I remember. You go to Ethiopian Orthodox church, you make a cross, you give respect, and then you take off shoes. No questions asked. So when I came here, my parents founded an Ethiopian Orthodox church, we took off shoes. That's what we did. No questions asked. Then I grew up. I went. People told me. Other people don't take off their shoes when they go to their church. I didn't know what to do with them. Other people don't take off their shoes. So now I have a question. Why do we take off our shoes? We're being told that we got to take off our shoes when we come to the church. Why? Is it because they buy expensive cars? Like, what's the reason for us to take off our shoes? And it wasn't until I grew up, I started reading the Bible, and I came across Exodus chapter 3, verse 5, where God asks Moses to take off his sandals for the place he was standing at was holy. And when I read that, I saw, my forefathers, they put this in place because the church is holy. So when I go in, I must take off my shoes. It didn't stop there. Kept reading. I came across Joshua chapter 5, verse 15, where again Joshua is asked to take off his sandals for the place he was standing out was holy. Now I had not one, but 2 verses which are telling me to take off my shoes. Clearly, this must be it. But I wanted confirmation. So I went to my spiritual elders and I asked them, is this the reason? Is this why we take off our shoes? Because it says in Exodus chapter 3, verse 5. And in Joshua chapter 5, verse 15, is this the reason we take off our shoes? And yes, but there's more reasons. So what are the reasons? You see, he said, when we go into the world, our shoes, they're picking up dirt. Now when we come to the holy place of the church, we don't want to bring with us the dirt of the world. So we take off our shoes. But taking off the shoes is really symbolic of our hearts. That's our hearts. How shoes and hearts relate? When we go around the world and we're walking around, just like our shoes, our hearts begin to pick up dirt. The dirt of the world. The sinful desires, the unwanted desires. Our hearts are also picking up dirt. So when we take off our shoes, that is a reminder for us to take off the shoes of our hearts. And when we take off the shoes of our hearts, when we appear before Christ, we appear with a clean heart. When you hear this, you fall in love. When you hear this, you want to serve the church. When you hear this, you understand why you're worshiping the way that you're worshiping. The second group has questions, and they need answers. They're asking, and they need answers. And the third group is probably the group who has never heard of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church before. Maybe you're here today. Maybe today is your first time coming here. And you've never been to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church before. And I just want to say, first of all, welcome. Welcome, and we're excited that you're here, and we hope you come back, and we hope that you keep asking questions and you find the answers that I know you will find, and keep seeking. We can only imagine how many questions we have. You're seeing us, you look at us, we look different, we have our scars, we ask you to take off your shoes, we thought we were going to take your shoes away, you're like, we're not taking it away, you know. We're glad you're here. Here we are, highly diversified group, different backgrounds, coming together to worship. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? But it could potentially have some problems if we're not careful. We can have misunderstandings. We can have disagreements, much like the Church of Corinth. That's the bad news. The bad news is diversity can potentially lead to disagreements. That's the bad news. The good news is we're not the first ones to go through what we're going through. The Church of Corinth already experienced the same things that we're experiencing today. All we gotta do is read the Bible to find the answers, find the solutions to our problems. So what are the solutions? Like I mentioned before, for the interest of time, instead of trying to address every single question one by one, if we find the root question, the mega question, the super question, then we'll be able to address most of the questions that we have. So what is the mega question? What is the mega question? Listen carefully. I believe the real question that we're asking is the following. Why does the Ethiopian Orthodox Church practice its faith in the manner that it does it? Why does the Ethiopian Orthodox Church practice its faith in the manner that it does it? Another way to ask this question would be, why do we do the things that we do? Why do we do the things that we do? Why do we take off our shoes when we come to church? Why do women cover up their hair when they pray? Why do we baptize infants? Why do we go to a priest to confess? Why do we do the things that we do? This is really the question that we're asking. So if we find the answer to this question, we'll be able to address most of our concerns about the church. Now, to answer this question, we got to do a little history lesson. And we find that in the year 33 AD, Christ Jesus died for us on the cross and gave us salvation. And in doing so, he established the church. But he didn't just establish the church. He spent a significant amount of time with his disciples, giving them specific instructions on how to worship. This is very important. He didn't just establish the church and leave. He stayed and taught them specifically how to worship. Now, many of us are concerned about having some sort of connection with God. We all want to strengthen our spiritual life. We want a connection with God, which is good. But most of us make the mistake of thinking that our journey to God ends the minute we find a form of worship that pleases us. That pleases us. Remember, a connection requires 2 points. At least two or more points, but at least 2 points. Now, if I'm looking for a connection with me and God, it's good that I'm happy. But is God happy? I'm glad that I found a worship that pleases me. But is God happy with the form of worship I'm giving to him? That's the question that the Orthodox Tewahedo Church asks. Is God happy with the form of worship that we give him? It's concerned about you and your happiness. But a true connection requires us to also think about God and say, is this the worship that He wants? Because Christ is the one that established the church. Because He's the one that gave us the instructions on how to worship. We have to listen to what Christ says. Generally speaking, any organization, institution, group, denomination has to be willing to amend, fix, reform the policy that they originally wrote, if this amendment or reformation will improve the organization. Makes sense? You write something like a policy, and if you can think of a better policy, then you write it because it's going to improve the organization. That concept cannot work with the church. For Christ is the one who instituted the church. Christ is the one who gave us the practices. Christ is the one who gave us the policy. Christ is perfect. How can you improve perfect? How can you reform perfect? Christ is perfect. His teachings are perfect. How can we change what He gave us? What He taught His disciples. What His disciples taught their disciples. Or what their disciples taught us. How can we change what is perfect? That is orthodox. We refuse to change, for Christ had it right. Orthodox. Now, to this question, some people might ask, people change. People's perspective changes. People's culture evolves. As people change, shouldn't the church change with the people? That's a fair question. People's mentality changes. Therefore, we should change, just a little bit. Maybe not too much, but change with the people. To this, we say, no. The church should never have to change. King David reminds us in Psalms that people live to be the age of 7, maximum 80 years old. But after that, they're just counting the number of days they have remaining in this world. Now, 80 is pretty long time. Think about the changes that take place in the past 80 years. Think about the change, the type of changes we've seen in the past 20, 30 years. I remember growing up, my parents would look at me and my brother, and they would say, "Oh, that's a little Chruch." This generation. And now I'm growing up, and I see these 15, 16-year-old kids, and I think, "Oh, that's a little Chruch." Why? Because for me, it's new. I've never seen a culture come up this way. I'm only aware of my culture. And when I see a different form of culture, to me, that's new. I've never seen that before. So whenever we're coming up, we think that we've seen this for the first time, which we are. But the church is 2,000 years old. And has seen this before. For us, it's new. For the church, it's not. I'll give you an example. You come to America. And one of the questions that our sisters ask is a fair question. It's a question about covering up their hair when they pray. Fair question. A long time ago, women and men, they weren't seen the same. Now, with equality, our church should say that women and men need to worship the same way. Equality. For us, like the first time I heard this question, I was like, that's a pretty good question. It makes sense because this is the first time I heard it. The first time I heard it, I'm sure the first time our generation is asking this question. The church has heard this question over 2,000 years ago in the city of Corinth. The people have asked the same question 2,000 years ago, and the church already answered. We think we're coming up with new questions. We think we're this new generation that's coming up with these new ideas. Which, for us, we are. But the church being 2,000 years old, it has already addressed our concerns. It's already answered our questions. All we gotta do is go back to the Bible and find the answer. And Paul answered the question, the same question, in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2 through 16. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 2 through 16, he told that a woman brings dishonor to herself if she prays without covering her head. And he tells them that their hair is their honor, their glory. From this we learn that women need to cover their head, their hair when they pray. Why? Because when we pray, who's present? God. Who's present? Christ. So our sisters, they cover up their hair, they cover up their glory, they cover up their honor, so that Christ can be fully glorified, fully honored. Through humility, they cover up their honor, their glory. It's not a question about equality, it's a question about humility. It's a question about Christianity. The questions that we're making up now, the questions that we're asking now, haven't already been answered. For us, they're new. We ask, but we need to ask. But we need to have the confidence in our church to know that it's already answered the question. We just have to seek. We have to ask. And we have to be willing to learn. Now, how can we change this? The teachings that Christ put into place. How can we change the teachings that Christ died for? The church that Christ died for. How can we change these teachings? Orthodox. We refuse to change the teachings. We stand firm. And we walk in the faith in that straight road towards the kingdom of heaven. We walk straight, preserving the teachings of our forefathers. We walk straight on that path, preserving the doctrines that our forefathers gave us. We walk straight towards Christianity, towards the kingdom of heaven. Ortho meaning straight. Dox meaning doctrine, the straight path. We don't look right. We don't look left. We go straight on the road that Christ put into place for us. Let's keep asking questions. And we will find the answers. But we need to have confidence to know that our church has already answered the questions. I see a few parents here today. Welcome. We're glad you're here, but we have a message from the second group. They told me to tell you guys. Your kids are asking questions. Listen to them. Answer their questions. They're demanding answers. You know what that means? You have to learn religion. It's not enough to simply come and go anymore. A new generation is coming. A generation that's demanding answers, and you must provide the answers. You must answer the questions. It's not enough to simply come and go anymore. Your kids, if they haven't already asked you, they will be. Get ready. Learn, declare your faith. Come, understand your faith. Learn about your religion. And teach your children. Because we have questions. We need answers. And everything that you do it with love. When you answer with love. When you ask with love. With the purpose of understanding the church that Christ died for. So, let us stand firm in the faith. Let's firmly stand in unity. Let us be courageous. Let us have the confidence in our church, and let us remember that our church already answered our questions that we're asking today. Let us stand firm in the faith. Let us know our faith. Let us understand our faith. And let us know what Christ died for. If you look into your folders that you received in the earlier part of the service, inside you find the creed. If you turn it to the page where it says, we believe in one God. This is our article of faith. This is what we believe in. This is what defines Orthodox. We need to read the creed. We need to recite the creed. We need to understand the creed. And we need to believe what it says. Now I humbly ask all of you to physically stand. I will ask all of you to physically stand. To physically stand. And let us all remember the cross. And let us all remember the message that we got on the cross. The message that Christ signed with his own blood. And the message that he delivered to its nation. The message that we received 2,000 years ago. The message of salvation. The message of love. The message that we often forget too many times. So that God has to remind us. The message that we received on the cross. Let us remember the message that we received to the nation. And let us all stand firm in the faith. And in unity, let us all say, we believe in one God, God the Father, the Almighty, who created heaven and earth and all things seen and unseen. And we believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, begotten of the Father before all ages. Light of light, true God of true God, begotten, not created, of one essence with the Father, by whom all things were made, who for us men in our salvation came down from heaven and was incarnate of the Holy Spirit and of the Virgin Mary, and became man, and was crucified for us under Pontius Pilate, suffered and was buried. On the third day he rose from the dead, according to the Scriptures, ascended into the heavens. He sits at the right hand of his Father, and he's coming again in his glory to judge the living and the dead, whose kingdom shall have no end. Yes, we believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the life giver, who proceeds from the Father, who with the Father and the Son is worshipped and glorified, who spoke by the prophets. And in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, we confess one baptism from the remission of sins. We look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the coming age. Amen. That's why I live there.